It's time for On Point with Julian Phillips.
Well, while President Trump still runs around the country claiming all sorts of falsehoods about him winning the election and trying to pressure lawmakers to change things, which amounts to nothing more than a coup d'etat, which is illegal, President-elect Joe Biden is going ahead and picking his cabinet. And it seems to be pretty diverse so far, but as we talked about last week, some people are still not satisfied. Some people still seem that he could do more, he can do better. But let's talk about who he has. So far, Alejandro Mayorkas, Department of Homeland Security, a Cuban immigrant. Linda Thomas Greenfield, UN Ambassador to the United Nations. He has elevated that to a cabinet position. And Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra. And also the latest one, which I want to focus on today with Eric Ham, which seems to be getting a lot of scrutiny by some, and perhaps his most important pick so far. Eric, come on into the show.
Good to be with you, Julian.
Good to see you here. So here we have right here probably the most powerful cabinet position in the sense that Defense Secretary, whoever heads that, is the head of the most powerful military force in the entire world. And here we have Joe Biden picking retired General Lloyd Austin. Impressive credentials. But Lloyd Austin is facing a lot of security. And I think he's facing a lot of scrutiny. And the reason why I think part of it is because he is a black man. That's a lot of power for a black man outside of President of the United States. But the other issue is, of course, he's only been retired about 4 years now, and there's only two generals that have climbed to this position of Defense Secretary: William Marshall back in 1950, and of course James Mattis in the Trump administration. So you're hearing pushback on both sides, both Republicans and Democrats in the Senate, saying, well, I don't know. We did that once before with Mattis, sometime back in 1950 with General Marshall. I don't know if we really want to do that again. In your mind, Eric, do you think that that's valid?
Well, I think this is perhaps a bridge too far for a lot of Democrats. And the reason for that is because there is this law that you have to have been retired from the military for at least 7 years before you can go in and take this civilian-led position. And even though Joe Biden penned an op-ed in The Atlantic why he supports Lloyd Austin, it doesn't really strike at why you need him and why you need him now. Because there are a number of other people that are civilians who are equally, I won't say equally qualified, but who are certainly qualified to take on this role. Michelle Flournoy, who is someone who was well received by many on Capitol Hill, who many believed would break new ground, being the first woman to lead the Pentagon. Many thought she was the front runner and she would be the person for the job. There was also Jay Johnson, we know, who was in consideration for the position as well. Again, another civilian. And so while Joe Biden has a relationship with Lloyd Austin and he worked alongside Lloyd Austin and he trusts Lloyd Austin's opinions and strategic thinking and to be able to lead the Pentagon, again, this is a position that is sacrosanct, which is why there is a law. And you're going to need a waiver from Congress to actually get this through. And you need both the House and the Senate to support that waiver. Now, if we go back to Mattis, there were 150 members of Congress that did not provide that waiver. And so you have a lot of those being Democrats who are now put in the unenviable position of now having to make this decision about a member of their own party, Joe Biden, who is now seeking to make this pick to Defense Secretary. And again, a number of members, including the chairman of the House Armed Services, believes that Michelle Flournoy would be the right pick. So again, what we see here is Joe Biden now having to expend valuable political capital to get Lloyd Austin over the finish line when he's already going to have to expend additional capital for people like Nadira Tandon, a South Asian woman, the first who will be the head of the Office of Management and Budget. So the question is, do you need this fight at this time when there are others who are qualified, who can take on this role? And while we recognize that Lloyd Austin would break new ground as well, again, for those who are standing on principle, they see this as perhaps a bridge too far.
Right. And of course, the Democrats don't want to seem like the Republicans, especially when it came to the Supreme Court nomination of Merrick Garland, the hypocrisy that the Republicans have put forth, with their nomination of course, this recent one of Amy Coney Barrett. But here's the deal. Joe Biden is not stupid. He's been around for 47 plus years. He knows what's going on. He would have to know, and even with his advisors know, that this might be a tough one, but yet and still he did it anyway. Do you think that he would have had the same scrutiny because, of course, he's trying to appease black lawmakers and activists? Would he have faced the same amount of scrutiny if he put Jay Johnson in this position, if he was looking for a person of color?
No, in fact, one of the reasons, the sole reason that we're hearing why so many Democrats are hesitant to pull the trigger on this is because of Lloyd Austin's role as a retired military general. And there is a law. Remember now, we're talking about a law. And many see this as not simply waiving the law, but breaking the law. And they just don't want to they don't want to have to set that precedent when they already set it when Donald Trump sought to name Mattis to that position. And again, it's not like we're at wartime right now. And so many just do not recognize and see the position. And also, I think what we're seeing here is the level of intense pressure the Biden administration is under to name people of color to his cabinet. And I think now we're seeing it run up against the political will of so many other Democrats who believe that the split between the civilian side and the military side is a line that should not be blurred.
Right. Listen, he does have some support. Hakeem Jeffries came out, in support and said this would sail through at least the House anyway. And of course, that's not the Senate. But, another, I think it was a congressman or a senator said, look, I would support Lloyd Austin simply because I think that 7 years is too long. Maybe, 7 years should be changed. That rule should be changed. But that being said, Eric, I mean, I know that you can't necessarily get into the mind of Joe Biden. You're not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but the point of it is, this is something that he should know. He should have known, I would think, that he was going to come against scrutiny with the pick of Lloyd Austin. So my question is, with somebody else like Jay Johnson, especially if you're looking to appease the black lawmakers and activists, then why Lloyd Austin, knowing that he's going to face a roadblock? That's what I'm scratching my head on this one.
No, it's a perfectly reasonable question, and the answer for that is because Joe Biden knows Lloyd Austin. He's comfortable with Lloyd Austin. Much like if you look at the rest of his national security picks, these are all people that Joe Biden has had extensive working relationships with. He has served with these individuals, and he trusts their instincts, he trusts their intellect, he trusts their ability to do the job. And when he was presented with both Jay Johnson and Lloyd Austin by the Congressional Black Caucus, I think the reason why he pulled the trigger on Lloyd Austin is because this is someone that he has worked so very closely with. And we cannot underscore the fact that Joe Biden is someone who has a deep well of national security experience. And so given that he has this relationship with him, I think what we are seeing here is someone who is willing to use whatever reservoir of political capital that he has to get him over the finish line. Because again, Joe Biden did not pen an op-ed for any other member of the cabinet that he is recommending for nomination. Not even Nadira Tanden, who we know is going to receive an enormous amount of scrutiny as the potential head of the OMB. But he wrote this op-ed for Lloyd Austin. So what I think that speaks to is his level of comfort. And I think Joe Biden wants to be able to have people in the cabinet that one look like America, but at the same time, people that he knows and he is comfortable having a working relationship with. We know, look, Joe Biden is a hands-on person, and for him, a lot of this is about personal relationships, and that's why he made this decision.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, look, we've made some picks in the past, and I think we've really come up 100% on all of them so far during the course of this political year. But on this one here, your thoughts? Do you think Lloyd Austin will pass the test?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, we've already seen Senator Blumenthal come out and say that he cannot support this pick. We do know that, and then, of course, Republicans are going to be the wild card here, because much of the opposition and the hesitancy that we're seeing is from Democrats. So are Republicans going to get behind a Joe Biden pick and try to save that pick? That's not something I would think they would be willing to do. But again, when much of your pushback is from people within your own party, it doesn't look good. It doesn't bode well. And then also, too, there are some who, quite frankly, are left with a little bit of sour grapes because they thought Michelle Flournoy was going to be the pick. And so Joe Biden is going to have to smooth a lot of that over with a number of these Democrats. And again, there's still this bad taste of Donald Trump flouting the law, not adhering to the law. And now we see Joe Biden actually essentially doing the same thing when clearly there are others who can take this job. I mean, and not only who can take this job, but you've got another African-American in Jay Johnson who can take this job, and you don't have to break the law or require a waiver for him to do this job.
Okay, I would say that he's not breaking the law. I would say that he would be getting a waiver. I'm going to go out on a limb on this one. I haven't been wrong so far. Eric, I hate to lose, but I think Lloyd Austin, I think he's going to pass the test on this one. I'm just going to say that. I could be wrong, but I'm going to hang my hat on this one and hope that I am right. Nothing further than the reason that I think the man is highly qualified, just like Michelle Flournoy or Jay Johnson. But I don't know. It's just a feeling that I have. Let's move forward here on this. Biden did meet with a group of black lawmakers, an activist, Al Sharpton being part of that. It seemed to be, from what I understand, the meeting was congenial, that both sides were willing to listen. I guess my question is, we do have some key picks already that Biden has made. And I guess my thing is, of course, blacks put him in. And, I've always said that we have to hold this administration accountable, black people. And I really mean that. But I also think that, are we going to turn, as black people are going to turn into what white folks have been to us for centuries? That all of a sudden now, you've got to have, like an all black cabinet. How many can we have? He has a lot of other people he has to put in there too to make this diverse. So at what point do we say, okay, look, we've got some good picks. We've got a vice president here. We've got a UN ambassador here. We've got some other picks, Cuban immigrant, whatever, possibly a defense secretary. And there's still more to go. How much pressure should we be putting as black people on Joe Biden when he's already shown his hand that he is putting people in these cabinet positions that look like us?
I think, quite frankly, I think some of these members of Congress, I think some of the civil rights organizations, I think they are being unreasonable, quite frankly. You've got the Deputy Treasury Secretary is an African American. You've got the chair of the White House Economic Council, an African American woman. As you mentioned, you've got the vice president, a woman of color. Your entire communications team is all women, which includes 2 women of color. So I think Joe Biden is making his cabinet reflect and look like America. You've got Cedric Richmond, who also has a senior level position in the White House that's already been named. So there are an enormous amount of people already, and Joe Biden has not even he has not even named his entire cabinet. He hasn't even named half the cabinet to this point. Right. And yet you have Democrats, black people up in arms saying we don't see enough black people. And this was never this was never going to be the all black cabinet. Barack Obama didn't have an all black cabinet, and I didn't see these Democrats, these civil rights organizations bitching and moaning and complaining like they are now. And so I think they're being I think they're being completely unreasonable, and I think they need to give Joe Biden some rope and some slack to be able to identify the people that he thinks will be best for the job, because now they're forcing him into a position where he has to expend capital now that he may have to use and would like to, I'm sure, have in reserve for later.
Well, absolutely. As a matter of fact, if you look at diverse cabinets, some people might be surprised, but George W. Bush, he had the Secretary of State, Colin Powell. He had the National Security Advisor, Condoleezza Rice. He had some people in some key positions there, not just, water boy positions, as I would call it.
Right.
And then also, we just forgot to mention that he also has as a pick Representative Marcia Fudge, for HUD secretary as well, a black woman. So, I like to say that he's doing, what he said that he would do as we move forward. So I hope some of our lawmakers who are of color like us, who really want to see them and make sure that they keep the pedal to the metal with Biden, that he's doing the right thing. So I guess we'll see. I hope that most of these picks go through. I think that they will. But at the end of the day, he is doing the right thing. I do think that if they shoot one down, maybe he'll come up with somebody else. You can't keep a good man down, as far as I'm concerned. So we shall see. As we move forward here, I just want to touch briefly on this in terms of where we are with the current president in the White House. December 14th is going to be a big day that's coming up next week. The electors will vote. Do you think at this point that there'll be more willingness by GOP lawmakers to put their hat behind Biden? Because apparently I think it was yesterday, that some were still willing to challenge this election. And I'm saying, like, what in the heck is going on here? What do you think?
No, I think we're still seeing immense resistance to a Biden-Harris victory. In fact, just yesterday, there was a resolution that was put forth by the Congress that recognizes Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as president and vice president elect. And this was put forward. This was put forward by the Joint Congressional Inaugural Committee. It's basically largely a symbolic committee. It's made up of the leaders of both chambers, as well as some at-large members. And we saw the three Republicans on that committee, which included House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, all vote to not recognize Biden and Harris as president and vice president elect. And like I said, this is largely symbolic, but even yesterday, and this was and what was symbolic about this was you already have what is known as Safe Harbor Day has come and gone. So what that means is all of the states have already certified this election, and Joe Biden has been certified the winner based on the number of states that he has won. And even after that, now you have congressional Republicans who are still unwilling to recognize him as president-elect, even as the transition process continues to move forward, and we know that an inauguration will take place. And at the same time, the Supreme Court has refused to hear a case by the Trump legal team, but yet Republicans are unwilling to budge even remotely. And even they're getting pushback from some Republicans, including Mitt Romney, who says this is crazy, and he's right. It is.
Yeah, it is. And I think that down the road, that Republicans will eventually pay for this. And the reason why I say that is I'm believing that this particular administration, with the enormous challenges that it faces with COVID, the economy and such, and also trying to repair our relationships with allies around the world, will prevail. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be an easy fight, but I think we have the right man for the job. Why? Do I think that Joe Biden is Superman? No. But I guess from my ministerial, spiritual feelings about this, that, he is the right man for what this country faces right now. And I believe that. So, we'll see. Time will tell. Listen, we've got a lot more to talk about here outside of what's going to go on next week with the electors, which I think we know is a foregone conclusion. We know that is. But I can't wait till January 20th, when apparently Trump is now claiming he's going to take Air Force One. I guess they're going to fly him down to Mar-a-Lago and is going to have some kind of rally on the same day as inauguration. I mean, this is just absolutely insane. But it's going to be interesting. And I think it's going to be a laugher. I'm going to have my popcorn ready. I don't know about you, but I'm going to be ready for it. Listen, man, always great talking to you. And
you bet.
We'll see you next week. Okay.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Julian.
Okay. Well, we are witnessing history in the making here, unlike anything we've seen before. I'd say triumph and tragedy at the same time. A new administration coming in, of course, at the beginning of the year, January 20th. But the tragedy of so many people who have lost their lives over COVID, and an administration unwilling to take responsibility for doing the right thing and perhaps would have saved hundreds of thousands of lives. But again, here we are. So we are moving forward, and we here at On Point are going to try to see if we can give you the very best and trying to weed our way through this tangled web of politics and government and everything else here. And hopefully we can give you enough information, not just to keep you on an even keel, but to keep you, as I say, on point, to make sure that you make decisions that are based upon good and factual information, no matter what side of the fence you are on. We are not partisan here. I know sometimes it may seem that way, because I do seem to lean more towards Joe Biden, but that's not the case. We will be, as we continue to move forward with On Point, I'm an equal opportunity bigot when it does come to both parties, because as you know, and I've said, I know both well and advise both. We'll see how all this plays out. I do think, for the sake of the country, though, that we need to pray that the Biden administration, for the sake of us all, they do the right thing. Anyway, look, a lot's going to happen within the next week. A lot's probably going to happen right after this broadcast. But we'll talk about all the unfolding developments as they come next week. Take care of yourself. Be well.